Alright, so turbo's in, everything's set up, exhaust is done, buttoned up, everything is ready to drive this car. Except, we really want to be able to check some of the boost that we're running, or vacuum that we're running when we're not in boost, and that way we can get everything really dialed in, especially with the tune, setting up the wastegate, double checking the EBC. So we really want to be able to have everything fully reliable and be able to check everything. So what we're going to do, we're actually going to install a boost vacuum gauge. Now, this is the glow shift gauge. Personally, I like it just because I like that it doesn't show any information when the gauge is off. It'll actually just be a regular black screen. And then, of course, you can change the colors on the dial. There's, I think, 7 different colors. So you can see the colors there. So basically, that kind of allows you to really customize, match your interior, things like that. Personally, I've been running this on basically every car that I've had since I've been 17. They're pretty cheap. This one's actually refurbished. So like new, it's refurbished by Glow Shift. Basically, it's about $30, I think. New, they're usually around $52, $53 shipped. So we got a pretty good deal on this one. And we're going to go ahead and install it now. Alright, so first things first, of course we got to open up the box. So what we're looking at here, got quite a few different things going on. Of course, double check it, make sure it's the right gauge. You can kind of see through it a little bit. Once it's in the gauge pod though, with the cover you really can't. But just double check, we've got inches of mercury down here and we've got PSI up top. So that's how we're running it. So we can pull this gauge out. It comes with our wiring already set. We just got to splice everything in. Now this is a mechanical boost gauge, which some people enjoy because it's a little bit quicker than the electronic boost control, the electronic gauges. The electronic boost gauges have to convert the boost signal to a voltage and send that voltage to the controller where it then moves the motor that displays this. This one's all set up with springs, so if you blow on this or whatever, you get your boost on here. As soon as that boost picks up, assuming that you don't have a very stretchy hose, you'll get really, really nice sweeps of the needle and everything will be much more precise as well as a much quicker response time for your gauges. So that's how I recommend having it set up. I think they're a little bit better, but sometimes, it's a little bit more difficult to get the lines for the vacuum hose routed comfortably, where electronic wires might be a little bit easier to go through. And that's basically all that's in the box. Now, something I didn't take out earlier, it will come with this piece. Now, this piece is to just provide shading so you don't get a glare or anything like that on the shield, on the face. Now, I have this on my wideband. Now, my wideband, if you guys recall, is on the driver's side pillar. So there is quite a bit of sun coming through the windshield, so I have this on there to make sure everything's nice. But this is actually, I'm going to mount the boost gauge in the center console. So we'll see how it looks. If there's no glare, then I won't have it. If there is a glare, then I'll have it. But having this stick out in the center console might be a bit cumbersome, so I'll try to go without it. And then, of course, these pieces, this here goes on the back of your gauge. So if you're installing it in a pod or something like that, you'll fit this through. It'll squeeze your pod mount, and that's how it's going to be set up. And then, of course, in the little baggie are going to be 2 nuts and 2 washers, and then of course that'll go on the back of this, and then it'll clamp everything together. We'll end up doing that, but we're going to have to do a few other modifications to make it fit in the factory location.
Let's get some of this stuff out of the way. Don't need this navigation. We're going to get these panels popped off. So if you saw my other video for removing the shifter, you just want to get a thin piece of metal in here to break these clips loose so you don't actually snap anything. Now I shouldn't have to take it off or anything. It should be okay like this. Oh, there we go. So I'm just gonna leave the boot on there because I don't want to have to undo the shift knob. Put that down there, tuck the shifter boot away. Now we've got 2 Phillips head screws down here, so we can go ahead and undo those, and this panel should be able to just kind of lift up. So now that everything's out, I'm just going to pull the shifter out of the way just for ease, but you're going to want to grab your hand under here, and you're going to pull back towards you, and you're gonna pop all the clips. And now you can tilt it forward. You're gonna wanna undo all these clips. They're pretty straightforward. Alright, so now it's out. All these have little safety release clips. So just go slow if you have any issues or any questions or anything like that. So now this is all out, we can go ahead and put it on our workbench and we can actually get a closer look at taking it all apart. Boom. Very simple. So now all three of these gauges are out. So we got fuel consumption, which is crap, we don't really need it. Torque, which is kind of a gimmick, we don't really need it. Oil temperature, which was kind of the only useful gauge on this. So now we have, and of course we can clean off a little bit of the dust here. Now, if you wanted to wrap this, if you don't like the dark brushed aluminum look, you can of course wrap it in a carbon fiber vinyl, or you can wrap it in a color vinyl. This would be the great time to do that. The fitment of this gauge in here is pretty loose. So we've wrapped our gauge pod in electric tape. So you can see we made it a little bit wider. Maybe if you had a bigger gauge, slightly bigger, maybe like a 55 or 58 or something, that might fit. But no worries, we just made ours a little bit bigger. What an asshole. Take some pliers. Alright, so that'll give us just enough to hook around the electrical tape and still line up with our hole here. Now we just gotta do the same thing on the other side. Here it is, pretty much flush mounted. Now the unit's curved, so it's not perfectly flush, but definitely close enough. So that's how my boost gauge is going to be inside the car, so we can go ahead and start getting our wiring set up. You've got some gears in here. You're going to want to make sure your wires don't get caught inside there. Just snug it up. We're going to wrap up our extra wire here. Alright, nice and simple and clean, tucked away, don't have to worry about it. And that's our switched 12-volt circuit. And you can just put that wherever it's out of the way. We're going to feed through the intake noise generator back from, you saw that in the intake install. We're going to open that back up. We're going to feed our line, our hose through here for our boost gauge. We're going to feed it from the glove box to behind the center console. So now I can tape the line to that clothes hanger and pull it through. You want to make sure you reconnect this clip on the side over here. There you go. Now the glove box is back in. You can adjust your seat to a normal seating position. And now we just got to bring over our gauge cluster. So we can test it out by going to accessories, and there's our gauge. So just turn it on all the way. Here's something I picked up from Home Depot. I've got it for the vacuum block. So it's pretty simple. It's basically just a plug. Okay, this image here shows how I have the vacuum block hooked up into the vacuum source. Now the vacuum source is going to be the intake manifold, basically anywhere behind the throttle body. Now you can drill and tap your own fitting, or you can use a T off one of the lines. Personally, I recommend not using the PCV or the brake booster line because the brake booster system is a safety critical item. So if you have a vacuum leak in your brake booster line, you end up losing your power braking system. Now the vacuum block that's drawn here on the left, you can run one of those ports out to the bottom port of the wastegate, a second one to your gauge, a third one to your blow-off valve, and a fourth one if you have to an electronic boost controller. Now in this sketch of the PCV system, you'll see that the stock system is on the left and the boosted system is on the right. On the stock system, we have the passenger valve cover drawn on the left. That's going to run to behind the throttle body on the intake manifold. On the driver's side, it's going to run from the valve cover over to the intake. Now we've modified this for the boosted system where we've inserted a catch can in between on the passenger side, and on the driver's side, we've hooked that valve cover up to a breather filter. Feel free to screenshot these images for use and reference later on during the installation.